Welcome to Your Game is Garbage. This is the second episode with the Designer Diary.
Part 2.
Yeah, Designer Diarrhea. So it's gonna be a very one-sided creative dump on your lap, George. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that it does not differ so much from any other episode, but I'm ready for it.
Well, so I think I said last time, to understand these videos better, you better check the explanation video of where the prototype of Catiko is right now. That will make things clear about what I'm talking now. And in this episode, I want to talk about the dice and the actions. How
and
I got
their
to
evolution.
there. Yeah. So to start, I can only say that most of the actions and the gameplay, the engine of the game comes from this. I think in English it's Encore. It's a roll and write.
Oh, I was going to ask. That looks familiar, but the title was different.
Yeah, this is Dutch. Yeah. But it's you roll the 3 black and the 3 white dice, and then you choose 1 and 1, and then the other players can choose from the leftover dice. So I stole that idea as an engine, but I stole it in the same thing and the same philosophy as we talked before. I started with this, and then I was sure that I was going to make it my own throughout. But this was the scaffold to build my game around.
Nice.
So logically, a 6-sided dice. I was like, okay,
6 sides?
I need 6 actions. And then because I was playing. No, I didn't play Anno 1602 because I first started making this game, and then for inspiration, I started Anno 1602, the 90s resource colonization game on PC. So I looked for 6 actions and 6 resources. Catan, whatever, all these kind of games is stone, wood, straw, or grain, and then I put iron in there and fish. The fish I threw in there, but I had no idea what it was gonna be yet. And then for buildings, for the actions, I think I really drew these on the spot. And this was the port action. Like all these games, you arrive on an island with a ship. So I thought a port and a market. The market is your starting building. I didn't have any actions for that, but I didn't need any at that point.
Yeah.
So the port, the factory, the production buildings, which was the most important idea of the game, and then military. But again, I had no idea what I was gonna do with it.
Yeah.
Just thought it was part of these kind of civilization games.
And this is all pretty early, right? Like in conjunction with when you were showing us the board. I'm assuming that was a very early iteration of the board as well, right? Because this is before all the ships and everything.
Yeah, this was the board at the time.
Yeah, at the time. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And then I had what is here service building. But it it became temples and government buildings and stuff like that. Even in a later episode, we'll talk about the theme and how what a debacle that was. And then Encore has a question mark, and which allows you to take anything you want, but it incurs a penalty.
Right.
So I wanted this as well, and so you could do any of the above, and you had to pay an extra resource, or you have to discard a resource to do it. So that was the penalty at the time.
I like that mechanic a lot, actually.
Yeah. And for once, I put the dates of when I started on the page.
And when was this?
This was the 28th of September last year, 2019.
Wow.
So almost a year.
Wow.
Feels like half a year, but it's almost a year.
I have no idea where this year has gone as well. But But that's pretty cool. I mean, again, I like the idea that, you steal mechanics from other games, but it's actually a really good foundation to build on. And then, as we'll probably see, you've probably changed it so much by the time we got to the end. Well, if it's even the end,
really.
but yeah.
Not
Oh
really,
yeah,
George.
you came back to the drawing board, and then you just
No,
started again.
it's actually the engine is still Encore.
Similar.
Well, but it's fine. It's fine. It has a lot of meat on the bones.
What's that phrase people use? Why reinvent the Encore?
I think they got it from somewhere else as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely wanted to have the same feeling of gameplay with Encore. Here you have a sheet where you cross off things. So in the beginning of the game, you have a lot of options, and your options diminish near the end. In the last couple of rounds, you have turns where you can't do anything. So I wanted to be careful with that, but I wanted the restriction to be kind of the same. Like you expand your empire in the beginning, you have a good feeling about the world is my oyster, and then at the end it starts to become more constricted and you need more space to build your empire. But of course the other players do as well.
Yeah.
That was the main idea.
Parentheses here, if I may. Have you played a lot of roll and writes?
Gansh and Clever and what is it with the street? Welcome to. Those were my favorites.
Yeah. We also enjoy. We enjoy one called Corinth, or Corintho, I think.
Yeah. It's Days of Wonder.
Yeah, I believe so. What I was gonna say about that is, like, I do find in some roll and writes you run out of options. But what I liked about Corinth is that it has. The same stuff you would otherwise run out of scratching off on your sheet. There's another option. I think they call it the one. I forget the actual name of the guy, but it's a wonder that you can use the pips on the dice instead of the actual number of dice that you normally would in the category you're selecting. And then, so what I'm trying to say is, like, I like that there's a duality, so you can use the dice as scratching things off. But if you run out of that particular thing, there's another option that you can still. So it's not like you waste a turn or like you have nothing to scratch off your sheet.
It's kind of a plan B.
Move this wanderer around. So I like that there is like. I was actually playing it the other night, and I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, I'm glad that they've implemented this, because otherwise people would be really bored by the end.
They probably play tested it, and people got really bored, and then they implemented it.
Yeah, exactly. But you're saying, like, well, I forgot the name of it already. the one that you were inspired by, Eureka, Europa, Encore, Eureka, Europa.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
Anyway, but you're saying that had the similar issue near the end?
Yeah, I think indeed most roll and writes give you a lot of options in the beginning and then restrict you near the end, because it's you're writing on a page. It's in the name, actually. Yeah.
How did you tackle that aspect on your actual board game version?
Okay, let's continue the diary. So I got my resources, got my actions. I'm flipping the page, but I don't know what's on the next page.
Surprise!
So with every action, I wanted buildings. I wanted to pair buildings with actions. So the resource buildings have the resource action and stuff like that. But in the first playtests, I think 3 sides of the dice were useful, and the other ones I didn't know yet what they would do. So people would roll stuff and ask, "Oh, what can I do with this?" And I'm like, I don't know yet. But that was really early playtesting, so it wasn't more than 1 round or 2 rounds, just to see if it would become something. So I started brainstorming about buildings, and I think then we can go to the first player aids, because the first playtest I did from the book, and then I had a player aid. So with all the buildings I had drawn on the tiles as well. And there was also a little score track, because the houses would score immediately and you would stack houses on one space. But that's a different story. But as you can see, all the buildings had a different cost, and it was a terrible idea. But because in computer games it works because the computer does the math for you, but here it didn't work at all.
Right. That's a good lesson.
So I had made dice with the 6 sides, and all dice were the same. Same with the resource dice, but I don't have them anymore. But they were all the same. All resources were available equally. So
the same amounts, I see.
The same amount, yeah. You had one black, white, one black, yellow, gray, brown, question mark, blue on the dice. So they were all the same. And that had its problems. It took,
I bet.
I think on New Year's Eve we had a playtest on a retreat, and then somebody said you should make it so, because there was a lot of problems with production. People wanted to produce cubes all the time because that was the way to victory, and it didn't happen enough. And so everybody was waiting for the production symbol, and if it was rolled, then the first player would take it. So there was a problem. So he said, just make sure that every dice lacks one of the sides. So that's always it can be 2 the same maximum, but the third dice is always something different if you roll. So that was a good addition. I didn't come up with it myself.
Nice.
And I did the same for the resources, and then I thought, let's make the black resource more rare, and make a different spread of the resources. So that was the dice, because and there as well I tried with this. I tried to put numbers on the dice.
Right.
And then you could, like you said with Corinth, you could choose to not do the action and take 2 of the resource that you're taking.
Right.
But it made it complex, and you don't have space in your market anyway, so it was not really... And it was solving a problem that I had to solve in another way. Because if you don't want to do the action and you rather take 2 of the resources, then there's something wrong with the action and not... I didn't have to give him more cubes instead. And then in between somewhere, I had the idea to make all the dice with actions and resources.
How did that work out?
I don't think I even played it. It was terrible. It was a terrible idea. Because the odds of rolling all resources it really didn't work. Yeah. So this was early. So here you can see the houses that you could stack them, and they would cost more and be more points. It just became very mathematical.
I must say they look very pretty though.
The color salad, yes.
Yes.
So then let's go to the first player board that was kind of useful, and I think that's this one. So here you can already see that every building had their own action.
Right.
And I think the rules of the game were still... so you roll the 3 dice. I need to get in the right ones. Yeah. So you roll all dice. You take... The first player takes 1 blue and 1 white and does the actions. And then the rest of the players could... do one of them.
Right.
You could do either the blue, the white, or you could build the building. That was it.
Oh, okay.
And the first player could take the blue, the white, do the actions, and then build the building. So there were 3 steps in your turn, and you can only see it in the next player board where there's this little icon. So the active player does the blue plus the white, and then at the end of their turn they can build. Okay. And then your passive turn of the other players is blue or white or build on the end of their turn. So that was
nice.
Yes, and I'm trying to figure out the problem with it. The feedback I had was that the passive turn was too lackluster.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to give them a full turn at that point because I thought the player downtime would be too much.
Yeah.
But by experimenting, by doing a playtest with where you could do a full turn on your passive turn, suddenly it was like, oh, it takes the same amount of time, so it should be fine. So then I switched to everyone does blue plus white and builds, and passive player blue plus white and builds, but they have a little less choice of dice. So that came organically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being better as well.
Yeah. It was just a worry that it would be that the player downtime would be too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can worry about it, but until you try it, you don't know.
Exactly.
You don't really know. Yeah. So then from there was still, I think you can go back to the cost of buildings. It was still a soup of cubes for every building. And still there were two types of factories in this stage. The military was, you could move your army, and I was really how do you say it, not cheap but stingy with the actions.
Yes.
Like the military action, you can move one of your armies 1 or 2 steps, and it felt like doing nothing.
Like a crawl. Yeah.
The same with the production. You could activate one of your buildings, so the game took ages. And then from one of the buildings I went to one type of building. Like you could activate all your woodcutters, and then at the end it was like just produce everything. I think I remember one playtest, like I'm gonna go overboard and just say, if you produce everything. If you do your factory action, do all your factories. And it worked. Not it worked, but it didn't break down.
And people had fun probably doing that.
Yeah, well, fun is a big word, but it was less sighing and less.
Yes.
Okay, I can move this one. And same with the military. I said, move all your armies. Why not?
And also, Jerome, you had told us that one of the biggest challenges you wanted to, achieve with this game was to make it a shorter game of this type of game or category. So that probably was one of the big things that helped and aided to that, I imagine.
Yeah. I think so. I think I just lost my patience and I said, let's do this in 15 minutes. Whatever you want. But I still had two types of factories. And still a complex set of building costs, which was the greatest hurdle to overcome. And like I said, you can move all your armies. You can then at some point I decided you can build for free. Why make
nice.
At some point it was like, why everybody was busy with either I can build a resource production whatever building, or I can build a house that gives me points. And I thought that was the crux of the game. How long do I spend building up my production to start building houses? And at some point it was a distraction. Gathering resources to build your resource buildings or your engine was a distraction from building the houses. So if you just skip that step and just produce and build houses, then it goes faster as well.
Yeah.
So it went to this. So on your turn, you take a white dice and then you do the action, or you build a building of that type for free. Or you build a house. And
magic
then I thought
words.
The cost of building the house is not doing the action. So you use the blue dice to build the house. And that was a good solution.
Yeah.
And then from here to there, somebody said, like, why 5 houses? Why not 4? I said, oh yeah. Wi-Fi. But I think I said that in last episodes.
I remember that. Well, yeah.
Especially the yellow house, it was sometimes chucked as a resource. So, and now we're here. Now we're here. I changed the color of the houses. I bought
I see that,
purple, orange, and white houses. And I played it with someone who has colorblind, and that works.
That's
just the player board doesn't really work for him. But yeah. And I made the actions even more slim. Like just do one
bare
thing
bones,
or two things like plan A, plan B kind of thing. And then one of the actions I want to highlight is the government buildings, temples, or these kind of buildings. These were meant as technology buildings, like the tiles in Kemet that you build, that give you, that enhance the actions that are possible. So that was the idea with the government buildings. But it was an action that broke the rule. There was a supply of government buildings, and you had to the action was taking the government building, and on the end of your turn you could build the government building.
Oh, interesting.
But it broke. It was different than all the other houses.
Yeah,
all the other buildings. So it was confusing. I always had to explain, and then at some point, and I don't know why it didn't click in my mind. You could just build it from the supply. That was more logical. It took me a while.
That's funny.
But I felt they were overpowered, so building them from the supply didn't feel fair, as the first player would always have the first choice, or it felt something like you have to do this. But the cost of building it is also you're taking space in your civilization, so you don't have space for something else. So I think the cost was high enough. And then in the same playtest where I said do whatever you want, I also said these buildings, you can build them whenever you want. And I think the first one was free as well.
So you went from stingy to over generous.
Yeah. Well, not even over generous. It's still okay. It works.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I just had to make the temples balanced, or at least they had to feel balanced. And they don't. That's another thing. The temples, I on purpose made them super swingy and off the rails for flavor. Okay. And it works. It works, but because and when I playtest now, every time a new tile is drawn, it's like, oh my god, this does what? And I like that. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's great. So you're feeling pretty good about where. Yeah. So people playtesting are still kind of what?
So people playtesting are still considering to build one or not, even though they seem wildly overpowered. They're still like, but I could also maybe build a house this turn instead of. So I think it's fine. There were second to last playtest, there was one that was overpowered, especially end of the game. It was a military one that lets you do 2 military actions, and then every player was like, no, this is not possible because this player will now conquer 2 houses in one turn, and that's not
right.
That's not fair. Yeah. So I chucked that one. Yeah.
So that's where you are today.
Yes. So I think, except I had some other. I tried this one as well, also with actions and numbers.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It didn't work. And
it's cool how you combine them.
I think, so in preparation of this episode, I was thinking, why not give players 2 actions? Like, let the first player take a dice and do another one as well.
Okay.
But I don't think it will work, because for me as a player, I think it takes too much to anticipate other people's turns. I don't want to. If I have 3 players next to me, I don't want to be analyzing 2 actions for every of those players. I don't think. I think now with 1 action, you can anticipate.
More manageable.
Yeah, because you can. And this happened last week. The dice are rolled, and people are like, "Oh, I hope he doesn't roll this," or "I hope he rolls this," or
Right.
There was one, and I recorded the playtest, but I don't know if you can see it well. But there was one where the guy was contemplating to take the military action. He was like, I will do this and this. And then you saw the guy next to him like, please take the military action, because the player next was going to attack him. So if he took the military action, then the other guy couldn't attack him. And then it was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. And he was like, oh, no.
No, those are good interactions to
that's
observe.
What I'm looking for.
Yeah. And I guess other than taking the dice that somebody else might want, are there any other ways to influence that kind of thing? Like, can you block other players in any other way, or?
I haven't put any reroll actions or flip the dice actions or special abilities in there because I want clarity. I just want. I don't want the next player to say, I'm going to re-roll everything, and then you have to rethink your turn.
What you want to do.
Yeah, I want it to be not static, but the dice are rolled, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't like dice games where you can just pay to do the dice you want. I don't know, it feels like... because some people have suggested introducing money into this game.
Oh, okay.
And for me, money is like a resource that solves problems in a game. Like if you have problems designing something, then you just add money to it, and the money will fix all the things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I've seen that happen before.
Yeah, I don't like it. So if I don't need money in this game, I'm gonna leave it out. I don't. Yeah.
It seems so far like a game I would play, and it seems very solid. It's come a long way. I think it was really interesting to see where the history of this particular aspect of the game today, just to see where you started. I can see how you're saying that, encore elements stayed, but it feels solid now.
Yeah, well, encore just had numbers and colors.
Yeah.
And here every phase is an action, and the actions are split up. So it's actually, I don't know if it's still, if you could recognize it one from the other. Not sure.
Not really. Yeah.
No.
But in your mind it is.
Well, something I still have to say about the dice. In the beginning, I thought the dice, I figured them out. And so I have 3 white, 3 blue. And they all have this, they are all the same. And I wasn't working on that, and I didn't question it. Even the buildings and the actions, they are still the same types. Because I knew I need a port, I need to be able to trade the goods, I need the factory to increase the value of the goods. So these things, these ideas came very fast and became very static as well. I didn't change them and I didn't question them.
Yeah.
I think I should question them more, but it just didn't happen. I was happy with it until somebody told me with the dice, oh, you should change the things on the dice. I never questioned it, and I think it's. Yeah, I think as a designer you have to question everything you do more. Yeah.
Now, I have a question about your recent trip to Greece. Did you bring Catiko? Did you get to play it with anyone?
Yeah, I played it twice.
Oh, nice.
I recorded it once, and I'm going to use the recording to maybe do a little expose on how not to play test.
Okay, I like that.
Learn from my mistakes. Yeah, I tend to help people too much and hold their hands. Because I want them to have fun, and if they don't see something and I see that they're gonna get stuck, I try to help them not get stuck. So
it's good that you recorded it and then you're watching yourself, right?
Yeah, because it's very different. You see yourself doing stuff that you say like, "Oh my God, don't help them," or don't say that. You're steering the game, but it's not a blank playtest yet, so I'm okay with it. But we can talk about playtest now if you want.
I would like to, hear what your plans are.
I played it, and so the takeaways from the first playtests, there was one of the 4 players that didn't like confrontational games, and he got his purple house taken from him in the last round. So he said immediately to me like, "I don't like this," and I said, "I understand." And then I told him, "But you could have defended it. You did the second to last turn. You didn't protect your house, and of course." The temple came where you could do 2 military actions, so he couldn't foresee it. But I had told him, like, you can't stand with your purple house, so you protect it. And he said, no, I'm going to stand here. So, but yeah, I understood what he was saying. And another thing was the game lasted half an hour longer than I wanted it to. And that is because I didn't remember a rule correctly. So there was the military. Yeah, there was a military rule where the player attacks a house. The player who attacks the house, for example, the 11-point house, gets the 11 points, and the player who loses the house loses half the points, rounded up or down, doesn't matter. In this playtest, I just split the points half and half.
I see.
And this makes that, and the end game trigger is 40 points or 2 of the housing pools that are empty. So in the old system, where you get full points and they lose half, more points are added to the game with the military action.
Easier to reach the end,
Yeah, so we didn't reach the end fast enough. Not as fast as I would have liked to. So it felt to me like the last half hour was... it was slow and not satisfactory. So then the next playtest, but on the other hand, I thought, because it was already a very military game, that playtest, I thought, if I had done the points like the old system, then it would even be more an incentive to attack people. Yeah. So I kept the half and half. And the next playtest, I kept the half and half, and I reduced the point limit to 35, and it still didn't work. Now it was the last half hour felt even longer because the winning player was stuck on 30. He didn't have the engine to build new houses, and only purple houses were left, and everybody was struggling to build a purple house.
Interesting.
So the takeaway from that playtest was, let's cut the costs of the purple house. Let's not have everybody grind to 10 cubes of one color. So that's the next playtest.
Were these in Greece, both of them?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's really...
and it's been since January since I playtested.
That's fruitful. That's good.
So I should have read the rules before I playtested.
Well, if anything, it really enforced why you had it the way you had it, or...
Yeah. And another thing...
He's like, sure.
Yeah, but the other thing is that the point spread of the houses...
Yeah.
I don't know if they're right. I don't know if it's correct, or... That's the next step I want to do, is make sure that 10 points, 7 points, 2, 5, 7, 11. I don't know how to calculate those things. Yeah.
And
I've played around with it, but no.
So is that a result of more playtesting? Is that actually asking someone that has more expertise in that field?
The second one, George.
Okay, got it.
I need a developer. So if you see this video...
Yes,
call George.
Please help. 1-800-JEROME needs help.
Yes.
I don't know how many numbers that. That's a lot of numbers. Well, actually, why don't we, put it out there to whoever's watching in case they have some suggestions for that?
Yeah, if they can do the math, I'm happy to.
Or provide ideas of what we should try to get to there. Because I'm trying to think too, and it's not an easy math problem.
No, it's not easy because the action has value. So you're suspending an action to build something.
Yeah.
The cubes, you take a certain amount of actions to get a certain amount of cubes. So that's kind of easy, but you have the chance not to be able to produce, so you might take an extra turn to get there. But then the real estate of that building is a cost as well. So one purple house takes as much space as a white house, but has 10 more points or 8 more points. So is that right? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if anyone is interested, watch the main video that Jerome was talking about in the beginning of the. It's probably linked below. Probably linked below. And then if we can get some ideas, that would be great.
Yeah. So next episode, I will talk about what's left. The buildings, maybe. The buildings or the theme.
Let's leave the theme for last, I think.
Yes, let's leave it.
Yeah.
That's a can of worms.
I remember a little bit of that.
Okay, thanks for listening, George. Cool. And thanks for
as always, thank you for sharing. Diving in depth a bit in your process is very inspiring, and it's funny because it's grueling in a way for you probably to go through all of these different iterations, or so much time has passed and you've put a lot of time and effort. But it's actually really exciting to see.
I kind of remember most of it. It's fun to look back and to see where I made mistakes and then learn from my own mistakes for once. Yeah. So I think the takeaway of this episode is be more generous. Not everything has to be a drag.
Don't be so stingy. Well, thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And everybody keep making those games.
See you next time, George.